All right, let's talk about a huge change that's just hit every single workplace in England, from the massive corporate headquarters right down to your local corner shop. There are brand new recycling rules in town, and listen, these are not just suggestions, they are the law. So we're going to break down exactly what you need to know to stay on the right side of them.
So let me ask you this. Does your workplace recycle correctly? It sounds like a simple question, right? But the answer has probably just changed for you. Whether you're an employee or you own the business, the way you've always done things might actually be out of date. Let's find out what the new standard is.
And just to be super clear, these aren't friendly guidelines anymore. They are legally enforceable rules. For most businesses, they kick in on March 31st, 2025. This new system is being called simpler recycling, and the whole idea is to get everyone handling waste at work in the exact same way.
So what's the big change? What's the core of it all? Well, it really boils down to this. You now have to separate your waste into 3 very distinct categories, or streams, before it even leaves your building. And this is now mandatory for everyone.
So these are your 3 streams. First up, you've got your dry recyclables. That's your plastic, metal, glass, paper, and card all mixed together. Second, you have food waste, which is going to be a new one for a lot of places. And third, well, that's for everything else, what we call non-recyclable waste. So let's dive into that first bin, because that's where things can get tricky.
Yeah, that dry recycling bin, it's where most of the confusion happens. If you put the wrong thing in, you can actually contaminate the entire batch, and that means none of it gets recycled. So getting this right is absolutely crucial. First up, let's tackle plastics.
Okay, for plastics, the golden rule is to think packaging. So, rinsed out food pots, tubs, trays, and bottles, they're good to go. But knowing what to leave out is just as important. Polystyrene, vapes, and, now this is the one that catches everyone out, items that are labeled compostable have to stay out. They just can't be processed in the same way.
And with metal, it's pretty much the same deal. Think packaging. Clean food tins, drink cans, empty aerosols, all perfect. But things like old cutlery or pots and pans, nope, they don't belong in here. And here's a really important one. Never ever put batteries in the recycling. They are a massive fire hazard and need to go to special collection points. Here's a little detail that trips a lot of people up. Not all glass is created equal. While bottles and food jars are exactly what we want, things like the glass you drink from, or Pyrex dishes, or light bulbs, they actually have a different chemical makeup. They melt at a different temperature, so they actually contaminate the good glass.
And finally, we've got paper and card. Cardboard boxes, office paper, all that junk mail. That's all good. But, and this is a big one, anything that's contaminated with food, like a greasy pizza box, is a no-go. The same goes for tissues and paper towels. They can't be recycled, so they have to go in the non-recyclable bin.
Okay, on to the second stream. And honestly, this is a massive change for so many businesses. From now on, every single workplace must have a separate collection for food waste. No exceptions.
And the official guidance on this is crystal clear. Even if your workplace doesn't have a kitchen or serve food, you still have to collect food waste. So if an employee just leaves an apple core or a used tea bag in a bin, it has to be separated out. You can't just tell staff to take their food waste home with them anymore.
So what are we talking about here? Well, it's all the obvious stuff, really. Leftovers, banana skins, apple cores, coffee grounds, tea bags, all those little everyday bits now need their very own bin. Now, please watch out for this because it's a super common trap. You might see packaging that says compostable and think, great, that can go in with the food, but it can't. It's a different process. Those materials need special industrial composting facilities. So, unless you have a specific collection for them, they have to go into the non-recyclable bin.
Okay, so we've got the rules down, we know what goes where. But what are the actual practical steps you need to take in your workplace to make this happen and stay compliant?
Here's your action plan. You've got to have separate bins, and they need to be really clearly labeled. And that goes for customer areas too, not just behind the scenes. Use simple signs to help everyone get it right. You also have to use a registered waste carrier. And this is key. If your recycling gets too contaminated with the wrong stuff, it legally has to be treated as general waste, which, by the way, usually costs more to get rid of.
All right, let's get to the bit everyone's been waiting for. When does this all start? Is anyone exempt? And what happens if you don't do it?
So for most businesses, the deadline is March 31st, 2025. But there is a really important extension for the very smallest businesses, what they're calling microfirms. They get an extra 2 years, so their deadline is March 31st, 2027.
Which of course leads to the obvious question, what exactly counts as a microfirm? Because the definition is very, very specific.
A microfirm is a business with fewer than 10 full-time equivalent employees. Now, the absolutely crucial part here is that this is calculated across the entire company, not just per location. So if you have a chain of 3 little shops, and each one has 5 employees, that's 15 employees total, and you are not a microfirm.
So that's the magic number, less than 10. If your total company has 10 or more full-time equivalent employees, these rules are for you, and they're happening now. And what about enforcement? Look, if you don't follow the rules, the Environment Agency can hit you with a formal compliance notice. And if you get one of those and ignore it, that is a criminal offense. They're definitely taking this seriously. So, I guess that brings us to the big final question. Now that we've walked through the 3 streams, the do's and the don'ts, the deadlines, is your workplace ready for simpler recycling? I mean, really, have a look around when you're in tomorrow. Are the right bins there? Is the signage clear? Because this new system is here to stay, and being ready for it isn't just about being green, it's about following the law.